It's our journey to know that's taken us from those very humble beginnings.
It continues to point to a gene-environment interaction.
I distinctly remember sitting there thinking, my daughter couldn't read on Monday, and now she can read.
So I'm hosting my own reading challenge.
Formula that we recommend based on the research.
And we called it Lindamood-Bell Learning Processes.
Welcome to the Lindamood-Bell Radio Podcast, where we explore topics in literacy and learning. I'm Dave Hungerford for Lindamood-Bell. Thanks for listening. We're pleased to offer a free webinar series for educators, leaders in literacy. Get the unique perspective of education experts and school leaders from around the country. Our guests have included the former Assistant Secretary for the Office of Special Education, the U.S. Department of Ed, the Honorable Robert Pasternak. Get this webinar recording and more on our website, lindamood-bell.com. Today I'm with Michael and Heather Zoerhoff. Mike's the Superintendent of Kentwood Public Schools, which is located just outside Grand Rapids, Michigan. Welcome, and Mike, tell me a little bit about Kentwood.
It is a special place, very unusual. It is the most diverse district in the state of Michigan. We have students from who are born in over 90 different countries now, who speak over 70 different languages. And if you think about that, that is true diversity.
How'd they end up here in Western Michigan?
You know, it has been a journey because we've seen growth over the last few years. We have a few faith-based organizations like Bethany Christian Services and Samaritas who they just have kind of come to, this is where the kids they started placing. And I think communities have grown to love Kentwood, and so now it becomes, almost like the early 1900s in New York City. When people came to America, they would be, the Irish would land in one area and the Italians in another, and then there'd be Chinatown. And now we've really seen the same type of thing happen in Kentwood. We've got so much diversity that it is not just valued but celebrated.
That must bring some special challenges for you. How do you face those?
Well, there are challenges with an immigrant population. As much as it is the glue or the foundation that makes us who we are, when you talk about the literacy efforts and some of the requirements that are put on a district, you're starting off in a little bit different place. You've got kids who not only are just learning to read, but learning to speak English as well. So we've had to use some creative and support systems to help those kids, reach the literacy that's expected in our state.
And what are some of those systems?
One of the things we've done is use Lindamood-Bell, and I've watched that grow as much as I've watched our immigrant population grow. Kids need extra supports. Not everybody starts off at the same starting point, and so we need to use pull out, push in, and one of probably our most important tools has been Lindamood-Bell program.
Lindamood-Bell isn't typically used as a language learning approach. How do you accommodate for students that come here and maybe they're past kindergarten or a little bit older and they don't speak English yet?
Well, Lindamood-Bell is one of our tools. We also use Imagine Learning. We use translation services. We actually have a unique program to Kentwood. We have, because not every EL student is in the same spot, even in their category, we've needed to create what we call newcomer centers. And at those are level 1 or 2, and that makes it sound like that's not a good thing, but that's just, they need more intensive services. So it's more of an inclusive program where we can provide extra support in terms of staffing. We have a great program called Imagine Learning that they can learn English and literacy skills on the computer. But then Lindamood-Bell has been one of the things that's a staple that's grown. I saw it. It's been in, I think, the district now for 10 years, and I've watched it grow to a word that people didn't know what that was. As you know, Lindamood-Bell is not the most common word, and now it's, when you tell parents that they're going to be getting some extra support in Lindamood-Bell, it's not, what is that? It's, oh good, we can use those services to help our kids learn vocab, to have it stick, comprehension better. You know, as the studies show, one of the great things about Lindamood-Bell is how it works with the brain, and using the helping comprehension stick, vocab stick. That's a unique tool, I think, to the program.
Now, Heather, I know your daughter has gone through the program. Tell me about that experience.
She had been struggling with her reading. Her scores had been consistently behind where they should be. And we decided it was time to get some extra help to kind of keep her from continuously falling behind. And Mike Pickard had recommended working with Lindamood-Bell, and it was amazing how much it helped her. It really, and she enjoyed it. It was something that wasn't difficult for her to do. It just required a little extra time, and we saw a huge return on it.
She started to enjoy reading again. I think some of the challenges, we have to remember, we all do things that we like, and if you're struggling with reading, then you don't do it as much. So just starting to have her vocab increase, working with Sherry, it was a blessing, and now her reading levels are right where they should be.
Tell me some more about the Kentwood School District. What are some of the things that you're especially proud of?
Another thing that is really that we always talk about, the foundation of our district, is capturing kids' hearts. And if you're not familiar with that, that is a program we've worked with also since 2005. And I would say it is the foundation of who we are here. Their slogan is, you cannot capture a kid's mind until you've captured a kid's heart. And so it's all about relationships and establishing positive relationships between adult to student, student to student. And that is really something that we value. And it provides us a common language, common tools. And I think that's something that, does parallel what Lindamood-Bell does. If we're all using the same common vocab language, then kids are hearing it throughout the day, and it's not, what is that, or a different term. So that's one program that has been outstanding for us.
You mentioned that you have a large immigrant population. You also have a population here, the people who are not immigrants. How do all these cultures mesh?
That is probably the thing we're most proud of. When you have diversity in race, we also have diversity in religion, culture, beliefs, and without capturing kids' hearts, which is the foundation of our positive, and celebrating all the different cultures, you can't make it all work together. I've often said, I wish the governments around the world could come to East Kentwood High School and watch the Bosnians and Serbians get along, the Muslims and Christians, all different races, all different cultures, finding a way to work towards a common goal. And they could learn a great deal from our kids.
You must not have gotten the memo. According to the internet, we're all supposed to be hating each other.
I know. That is, when we take people through a tour, interesting story, we were working with a company from China a few years ago called Weiming, and their dignitaries were coming to visit and watch how the program was working, because their kids were here on a international study. And one of the things that has to be unique to our school is we did not have to bring in an interpreter. We just found a couple of our kids who are from the same region. And it was fun to watch our kids, high school students translating with these dignitaries from China and then saying, oh, I know where that province is, and then striking up a conversation. And that's kind of what happens all the time. If an immigrant settles here, you can imagine the fear, the worry about starting a new school, and all of a sudden you see people like you. And I always think that's the most amazing part, and it works because all of our kids, when you have that many students who are immigrants, that is a key to, they know how they feel. They welcome others who get here.
How do you prepare your teachers for this environment?
Well, with everything, there has to be professional development. We're dealing with the same challenges that every other district deals with. There simply is not a lot of minority candidates going into teaching these days. And we're trying hard to get our staff to look more like our student body. And as you can imagine, that's a challenge for many districts. For our districts, it's never going to be perfect, because how would you get that many different languages and cultures to come together? So we target hard to give our staff professional development on all the different cultures. We're constantly doing things that we pick up in maybe reading or literature that can explain this is what it might mean to this culture or that culture, and we have to be sensitive. Also, it's not easy when you're teaching history to world history to this many students. You have to remember it's written from a European standpoint, so we have to be very cautious that we're always providing different standpoints. Because we might have kids out there who say, "Hey, I didn't learn that in my country." So it's as great of a strength as it is. There are challenges, but I think anything worth having or celebrating, it will provide challenges. It makes you stronger in the end.
I think it's just also an expectation that if you're going to teach here, that's going to be a core of what you work with, is the diversity and the different perspectives. I don't think there's anybody that would teach here that wouldn't relish that or embrace that.
That's a great point. We always say our school district is not for everybody, but those who are here benefit from it. And working here, you have to work even that much more hard and you have to think that much more and be that much more to your differentiation in your classroom. But the rewards are great. And that's why most people go into education. It's not necessarily the monetary at the end of the day that brings you the joy that you see in helping students achieve their goals. And we see it every May coming up again. We'll graduate 670 students in our senior class, which is a very large senior class. We'll watch kids go on to Harvard, Yale, the Military Academy, West Point, Michigan State. Even the diversity of our kids going to college is fun to watch. And those who don't choose to go on to college, we do have a lot of kids that are filling those jobs that they talk about in Michigan. Michigan is a great need for the skilled trades, and that is something we're proud of. Being a large district, we're able to provide those opportunities too. I'm not sure if most people know, we're one of the very few districts that actually build a house every year. We have a residential construction program, and our kids build one house a year. And to watch that project, happen, the pride they take at the end of the year when their house is done, and to go through the plumbing, the electrical, the framing, the drywall, and then the sale. And it's become something that we're very proud of. The houses usually are sold before we built them, because people know the quality work.
That's great. Speaking of the teacher again, how do you recruit? Are there certain universities that are a particularly good pipeline for you?
We do lots of recruiting. A lot of social media to talk about our district, and it does attract. We are a destination district. People say, I'd like to work in a place like that. So we haven't seen the teacher shortage that I think some of my colleagues have seen. But we do a lot of the usual. We go to all the job fairs. We target as many colleges as we can. We try to do a lot of national too. But trying to get kids to come up from the South, maybe a historically black college, and we go down and talk about our district. They love our district, but then they do know about the Michigan winters.
I love the weather.
Yeah, so that is a challenge. But we do recruit hard, targeting that diversity. But we want the best teachers. I mean, whatever your culture is, though, we want the best teachers because we need the best teachers for our kids and our community, and that's where again that professional development comes in. If we do get somebody who maybe is not of that culture, then it's our job to make sure that they know what we're all about here.
I've heard a lot of different reading experts say that the universities are not preparing teachers to be able to teach, in particular, reading. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I sort of am a glass half full guy, so I won't take a shot at our kids coming out of the programs. They have a job to do too. The universities prepare them to teach. But when you think of all the different places they're going to teach, each district is going to be unique. And so I do think it falls on the district to, just as any business company would be. I can only imagine from talking to my business friends who own businesses, they have a specific culture in their business as well. So there is always going to be a professional development and a learning curve when you hire somebody. And it's your job to create that, here's who we are.
To mold them.
Yeah.
Once they come into the district, to help mold them into what the district really needs. If they're coming in brand new, there's a huge learning curve that happens for a first-year teacher. I was one myself, and where you are in the beginning and where you are at the end of that year should be drastically different, I think.
And I think it's always going to be that way. But it's, you get into the blame game of who's not preparing, and we try not to do that. We try to say, okay, well, here's, just like we do with our kids, here's where they're starting. Let's get them to the finish line. And if we need to provide extra support, we provide extra support. And one thing we do like, I will tell you, is we push hard for our Kentwood grads to come back and teach for us. And we're very proud of a very large alumni of those who come back. I think that's probably one of a district's most proud moments, is when they don't want to escape, they want to come back and be a part of something good. That tells you you're doing something right.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you maybe backtrack just a little bit and give us the demographic numbers of the students here?
I will, it's changing every day, so it's hard, but we do have over 9,200 kids in the district. I think over 1,200 EL students, so that's a pretty large percentage. I think our last count is, somewhere around 15 to 20%. So that's a large portion of our population. A lot of people need to understand, though, an EL student, I think that's a positive thing. They've come to this country, they want to be here. They've escaped something that's probably not the greatest. And a lot of those kids have a true Kentwood grit, we call it, where they can overcome struggles that maybe myself, who hasn't had, couldn't. And so I think that is one of their true greatness, is their resiliency to overcome challenges. And an EL student is not always an EL student. I mean, that's another thing to remember, is what they may come in as an EL student, but I think of many students who've left us. Diane Mubizi, who came as an EL student, going on to top colleges and very successful. It just shows that grit that our kids have.
So what does the future hold for Kentwood Public Schools?
That's a great question. I like, one of the things that we study is Jim Collins in Good to Great and Great by Choice. And so one of the things that I think we're most proud of is we're not just settling for good. We're always striving for great. And we've seen so many successes lately that it's really easy to sit back and rest on your laurels, but there's a new group of kids coming in who don't know about those successes, so it has to just continue. And so the thing I think the greatest thing is the future is bright. We were just ranked as the hottest zip code in America, 49508. I had a friend in California who was watching the news, who texted me and said, I just saw in the news, Kentwood is the hottest zip code in the nation. And we're seeing growth, we're seeing destination district, and a real positive attitude. And I don't know that that's the norm around the country in public education or in society. So I guess one of the things I'm most proud of is our kids are really trying to make a difference. They want to go out into the world and share their experiences here and make the world a better place.
I would imagine the community is very involved in the school district as well.
If you've got a community that's proud of their schools, they're very involved. In fact, we just highlighted numerous community organizations and mentors who are involved. I think you could go into any of our schools, you find a lot of senior citizens who've decided, I want to spend some time, I want to read at lunch, I want to help kids out, they're giving back. So we have business partners that are just amazing, like Bosch and Steelcase, who are willing to step in and provide grants and help with programs. One program recently that I would love to highlight is our Kentwood Parent Academy. We worked on a grant with Steelcase National Company that's located right here, their headquarters in Kentwood. They provided a grant so we saw a lot of our EL families where our kids spoke better English than the parents because they're going to school every day. So we might be at a parent-teacher conference and the kid has to translate, and we want to make sure that the parents are hearing what we want them to hear. But also, a lot of times they don't feel like they can be involved in school. And so we started something called the Kentwood Parent Academy, where we target 35 parents, and they come 1 hour, 2 hours a week, and they have dinner. They have a class. It could be on banking, finances, how to become a citizen, government, study skills in school. It could be on the internet, how do you get connected, services that are out there. And so we've already only been doing this for a year and a half, and we've graduated 125 parents, and we give them a certificate and have a graduation. And, what have we seen from that? When we study the data of those parents' children versus maybe parents who weren't involved, we see growth, way higher achievement on all. And then we also have seen them starting to get involved in school. They want to find out more about what's going on in this school district that is willing to work after school with them so that they can be successful. And so, the community involvement, it spreads from the top businesses around to folks who just got here. And that's how you build a strong community and a strong school system is we're all working together as a team.
I think it's also worth noting that since we have one high school, as opposed to a lot of districts that have split into the two, it's like the culmination of everything for the kids that start in the elementary and go through the middle, and they're finally at East Kentwood High School, and they're excited to be at East Kentwood High School. And it keeps the community as one focus, as opposed to, are you on this school, this high school, or this high school? And it's big, but it offers so much. It's really, in a lot of ways, like a small college.
It is, yeah.
And it just keeps one focus for the community, for everybody. And I think that's
true.
Interesting.
10 elementaries, 3 middle, so it just keeps slowly getting smaller until you are at the big house at East Kentwood High School, and they're proud to be there, and they're excited to all be Falcons. And so when they leave, they're all Falcons, and it does bring a community together. And as Heather said, it is a big school, but that's why we work hard on capturing kids' hearts and building positive relationships. You can be a big school and still have a real small town feel, and I'll take that any day.
How big is it exactly?
We have 800 students in the freshman campus and 2,200 at the 10-12. So we have a freshman building and then a 10-12, and so I think it's 2,900. 9 through 12. And by a lot of standards, around the country, that's not that big. For Michigan, that's a large school. I think it's one of the larger high schools in the state. We do it a little differently than we have, as you know.
Immigration has become such a pejorative in the public conversation. How do you deal with that?
It's a hard thing because we're all so proud of something that we read in the paper every day is a bad thing. So it's. But we used to say, the bubble of West Michigan. I really think we've almost created a bubble here in Kentwood that is a good thing. Inside our bubble, we love our school district and our community. It's usually those from outside who aren't at the restaurant that are complaining about the restaurant. We like our restaurant. We like our place.
It starts so seamlessly too when they're in elementary school. My daughter's gone kindergarten to 6th grade now, and she doesn't really see differences like that. It's just, those are her classmates. Those are, she is starting to acknowledge that, so-and-so used to live somewhere else and they can speak this, and she thinks it's cool. There's not a drawback for it in her eyes.
Yeah, I will say when our kids graduate and go to college, it's a fascinating thing to watch. Our kids are often the leaders on the dorm floors, because other kids might say, there's a kid from Syria or there's a kid from wherever. And our kids are like, I had 3 friends from Syria. And they are leaders when they get to college because they think it's a great thing. For West Michigan, it's a very cosmopolitan
These kids
area.
come out much more savvy than a real homogenous looking district. They're much more comfortable to move in the world without it being frightening to them.
I want to thank the Zoerhoffs and everybody I met at Kentwood Public Schools. Look for a district profile on Lindamood-Bell's YouTube page coming soon. And I want to thank you for listening to the Lindamood-Bell Radio Podcast. If you like what you've heard, rate us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Lindamood-Bell on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We are Lindamood-Bell Learning Processes.